Susan Boyle achieved unimaginable success after her incredible audition in Britain's Got Talent. She was initially not a favorite, but her powerful voice changed everything. She won champions in America's Got Talent, and her fortune exceeded $45 million, then suddenly disappeared from the public eye. Join us as we discover what happened to the singer and her story. Susan Boyle is living proof that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Susan Boyle was born on 1st April 1961. Her father, Patrick Boyle, was a miner, and her mother, Bridget Boyle, was a shorthand secretary. Susan has 4 older brothers and 6 older sisters, and grew up in a council house in West Lothian, Scotland. Ostracized at school, Susan was only able to find some peace through her love of music. She was a member of the choir of her parish church and actively participated and successfully competed in local talent competitions. Her mother encouraged her to enter Britain's Got Talent, but Susan considered herself too old and dropped the idea. Despite her enjoyment of watching it on television, Susan was unable to audition, although she started in 2004. It was only after her mother passed away in 2007 that she finally auditioned in 2008. She had been caring for her ill mother and had never performed in public before. At the Britain's Got Talent showcase in Glasgow, Susan stunned the judges and audience with her vocal rendition of "I Dreamed a Dream." The chorus was greeted with a standing ovation. Amanda Holden said it was the biggest wake-up call she had ever received, and went on to point out that people underestimated her because of her beauty. Susan, who later became known as Susan Boyle, gained recognition with the support of famous personalities such as Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher. After achieving worldwide success, her audition video went viral on YouTube and became the most watched YouTube video. Despite coming second in the competition and facing early challenges due to burnout, Susan began her new life as an artist, touring with other contestants and working on her debut album. Susan's story has inspired many, showing that dreams can be realized at any age. School was a difficult experience for Susan. She was constantly bullied by both her friends and teachers. In an emotional interview, she shared how difficult it was to keep up in a system that values speed and fast learning. "I'm a slow learner. I just grasp a little bit slower than others. So they leave you behind and they want to move forward. I think that's what happened to me," she said. Her teachers would punish her mercilessly with a belt when she struggled academically. Her friends nicknamed her Susie Simple and constantly insulted her, making her school life one of the worst times. The bullying and corporal punishment prevented Susan from developing herself and created further obstacles in her academic journey. Performing in Britain's Got Talent was Susan's way of subtly proving her oppressors wrong, showing that, despite their cruelty, she could achieve something great. Her performance was sweet revenge. She later wrote and performed a song called "You'll See" on her debut album, a reminder to her bullies that she had succeeded despite their heartlessness. But her path was not easy. In 2011, Susan revealed a tragic part of her childhood. As well as an undiscovered learning disability, she also suffered from epilepsy. Doctors had made the correct diagnosis, but those close to Susan, her family, and teachers were unable to cope with her epilepsy. Doctors had made the correct diagnosis, but her parents and teachers did not know how to deal with Susan's epilepsy. This is also known among musicians such as Elton John, Neil Young, and Lil Wayne. But in Susan's case, the diagnosis was seriously mismanaged. She recalled having regular seizures at school, which provided more ammunition for her bullies. She would faint during lessons, and when she regained consciousness, her friends would gather around her, calling her names and taunting her. Things were not much better at home. His parents would overprotect him during seizures, and if the problem became too overwhelming, they would leave him alone. When she asked for extra help, her father called her touchy. The general assumption was that Susan's epilepsy was linked to learning difficulties, but this was not the case, so the condition was not treated. It was not surprising that Susan graduated from school with few qualifications. She struggled to find work because of her learning difficulties and undiagnosed learning disability. According to Susan, she applied to many places, but either didn't hear back or was unsuccessful after her first interview. She eventually found a job as an apprentice cook at West Lothian College. But this lasted only 6 months. Mostly, she had to move from one state training program to another without a stable job or sufficient income. But despite these difficulties, he found joy and solace in performing at local venues, which was the extent of his musical career. A tragic loss pushed her to realize a dream she had never dared before. Despite a difficult family life, Susan Boyle believed in forgiveness and selflessness. She didn't have much growing up and was not romantic, famously saying during Britain's Got Talent, "I've never been married, I've never been kissed." Her modesty and kindness led to important life decisions. After the death of her father, all her siblings eventually left their 4-bedroom council house, leaving behind their elderly, sick, and frail mother. Only Susan and her 10-year-old cat Pebbles remained. Even after becoming a world-class music artist and earning millions, Susan still lives in her childhood home and embraces the simplicity of her life. A neighbor said that when her mother Bridget Boyle died, Susan didn't go out, answer the door, or phone for 3 to 4 days. Susan is a choir singer at her church and serves as a volunteer, visiting elderly members of the congregation in their homes. In a 2010 episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show, she described her pre-fame life as ordinary and routine. In 2012, Susan was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which she made public in a BBC interview in December 2013. She also suffers from epilepsy. When asked about internet dating in November 2012, she jokingly said, "I know my chances. I go on a date, and my body parts are found scattered in various Blackburn bins." In July 2013, Susan supported the Better Together campaign in the 2014 independence referendum, supporting Scotland remaining part of the United Kingdom. Susan has stated that she is a proud, patriotic Scot, passionate about her heritage and country, but not a nationalist. Susan, who does not drink alcohol, has type 2 diabetes, diagnosed in June 2013. In November 2014, it was reported in the media that she had a boyfriend who claimed to be her first boyfriend and was almost the same age. She suffered a minor stroke in 2022 and shared this on an episode of Britain's Got Talent on 4 June 2023. What do you think motivates Susan Boyle to still remain in her childhood home today? On Britain's Got Talent, despite Susan Boyle's gentle-looking face, her appearance was overlooked because she was not dressed in a fancy outfit. But her beautiful voice dazzled everyone, even the judges. The transition from scenes of bullying to the stage where she received applause before, during, and after her performance attracted worldwide attention. Susan's audition video went viral within a week, and the clip featuring her has been viewed more than 100 million times. Compilations of her previous performances, such as her 1999 performance of Cry Me a River, also went viral. Susan continued her battle with illness and fatigue throughout the competition, still putting on an excellent final performance, and in the end only losing to dance group Diversity, who came second. However, she had won the most important battle of her life. Following Hope, Susan released Wonderful World in 2016. Susan continued to work steadily on her music, but due to old age and other health issues, she took an indefinite break. Many thought her music career was over. However, Susan surprised her fans in 2019 by releasing an album titled 10. This album encompassed her best work. Susan once again overcame all odds and managed to make her mark in the music industry. However, along with her triumphs, there were also sorrows. Susan's loyal fans realized that she had changed dramatically due to her heartbreaking diagnosis. Although she has a lot to offer, she now prefers to lead a quiet life, far from glamour. There is a hint of sadness underlying her great success. Susan had this to say about her work: "I had a lot of fun making the album, and I hope the public enjoys it as much as I did." If Susan Boyle's success story has surprised you, brace yourself, because the heartbreaking facts we are about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about her journey. Can these facts reshape the way you look at Susan's story? Let's find out together. Britain's Got Talent took Susan Boyle to the top of the world, but the extensive and demanding training program exhausted her. She was happy to sing, but fame was new to her. Following her appearance on the show, she struggled with the grueling routine of interviews, posing for the paparazzi and dealing with rude and harsh criticism. Susan's fame was overtaking her, but she did not win the show and had to be hospitalized immediately after the finale. 5 weeks of media pressure wore her down, and she began to become physically weak. It was later revealed that Susan had suffered a nervous breakdown. Despite being extraordinarily talented, she didn't get enough public votes, which led to an outburst of anger against the show's manager. That night, staff at her London home called the police because of her bizarre behavior. A few hours later, Susan had to be admitted to a mental health facility. News of her nervous breakdown spread quickly, and it emerged that Britain's Got Talent producers had ignored Susan's poor physical and mental health in the run-up to the final. UK media regulator Ofcom wanted to launch an investigation into the show for putting the health of the participants ahead of ratings, but the idea was later shelved. This experience taught Susan that she should take a lighter approach to her music schedule, but this was not possible as she had a demanding touring schedule ahead of her. Nevertheless, she put on excellent performances for her fans. While working on her music, Susan suffered another setback in her career. In 2013, she was finally given an accurate diagnosis for her learning disability. Interestingly, it wasn't actually a brain injury. It was a misdiagnosis from her childhood. The singer was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism spectrum disorder. Hearing such a revelation was heartbreaking, but on the other hand, she was lucky. For years, Susan had believed that a minor complication at birth had caused permanent damage. Thinking back on her academic years, she considered herself unlucky, but her Asperger's diagnosis allowed her to receive appropriate treatment for the first time in her life. In an interview with The Guardian, Susan explained that being labeled as brain damaged always felt cruel and unfair. Deep down, she knew she was like everyone else, but she did things in her own way. She also said that she hoped her diagnosis would encourage people to treat neurodiverse individuals more kindly. "I think people will understand me better because they will better understand who I am and why I act the way I do." Following these bold statements, Susan received a lot of support from fans and critics. People appreciated her for being authentic and honest about her life experiences, a trait that many celebrities avoid. As if that wasn't enough, that same year Susan had to give up chocolate, the only pleasure in her life. This was further complicated when she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The diagnosis was timely, but Susan had to cope with a new lifestyle while still adjusting to autism. Later, when the pandemic hit, she had to take extra precautions to protect herself from the contagious COVID-19 virus, which led to an interruption in her music career that lasted at least 2.5 years. She had to avoid interacting with people who could help her record a new album. Susan's life was not only about public support and successful albums. Things were also bad at home. In 2010, she bought a house with her earnings, but a group of thugs made her life a living hell. They threw stones at her house, tried to break in, and threw fireworks at her house. He eventually returned to his childhood home and gave his luxurious house to his nephew. These experiences often made him sad, but his sister's illness. Her sister Bridie died of cancer at the age of 73, and her death was emotionally traumatizing for Susan, because she was the person closest to Susan. Susan also had to take care of Bridie's daughter. After Susan's explosive success, Bridie became a supportive sister in many ways. She stood by Susan when the media criticized her for arbitrary things like her appearance, and she continued to keep Susan grounded as success followed her everywhere. Bridie was Susan's protector during her ugly fight with her brother Jerry. Susan's success meant she had millions of pounds in her bank account, and everyone wanted a piece of it, including her other siblings. The problem arose when Susan decided to give Jerry $75,000 to save his failing business. When her other siblings objected, Susan claimed that Jerry threatened to commit suicide if she didn't give him the check. This caused a rift between them, and Jerry accused Susan of lying. However, in 2016, Susan's public nervous breakdown at Heathrow Airport brought the siblings together and brought a heartwarming end to their feud. Unfortunately, Susan Boyle's health problems are not over. In May 2022, it was revealed that she had suffered a minor stroke, making it even more difficult for her to work on music. She revealed this touching news after a wonderful performance on Britain's Got Talent, where she performed alongside the West End cast of Les Miserables. I had a small stroke last April, and I thought it would be crazy to get back on stage, but I did it, Susan said, explaining that it was important to return to the stage after suffering a stroke. That night, she announced to her followers on Instagram that she had to do extensive speech practice to perform her beloved song, I Dreamed a Dream. Her hard work paid off, and today, despite various health problems, she continues her music career. Although the stroke has delayed her plans for new music, sensational Susan Boyle continues to perform for her fans whenever she has the energy and desire. Despite largely staying out of the public eye, Susan has recently expressed that not having children is one of her biggest regrets. Still, she is rumored to have a secret life with an American lover, unknown even to most prying media circles. In 2016, she told The Mirror that she had chatted informally with an American doctor, but that they were not serious. Since then, media reports state that Susan is now in a happy, stable relationship. However, she has no plans to publicly announce her lover or get married. Her lover accompanies her on special occasions such as her birthday, but that is all that is known about her love life. Before her big appearance before the show, her fans were looking forward to new music. Susan Boyle is the gift that keeps on giving as she patiently waits for her next music venture.